direction? What direction? What direction? What direction? Life begins at the intersection. What direction?
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Ashley, Kentucky, right here, 311 17th Street, the home of the intersection. I am excited to have Amanda Davis with me, the worship leader here at the intersection, on this special segment called The Impact, where today we're going to talk, Amanda, about the impact of worship. You love to worship.
Absolutely, I do. It's my favorite thing to do.
So you've been a part of the intersection almost from the beginning, right? So we're in year 4, and you've been here how long?
I'd say about 3.5 years.
3.5 years, wow. So you were not, originally the intersection had a rotating team, and so how long have you been in the role of the worship leader?
Pretty much
From
the beginning, yeah.
Wow.
From my understanding, they didn't have, they would have to have somebody come in.
Right, rotating
And
people. Wow, right.
sometimes they would, just put something up on the screen and sing along with YouTube or something.
So you're really the
yeah.
one and only.
Right, yeah.
When I used to pastor in Texas and I was the founding pastor, I used to say that being the only one means that nobody could do it better than I'd done it. It also means nobody could ever do it as bad as I'd done it, So tell us about when you felt the call to lead people in worship, what that call was like, and the surrender to that.
Yeah. So this was about 3.5 years ago. I was listening to one of my favorite worship leaders, Lindy Conant. She's so awesome. Check her out. Anyways, I was listening to her, and I just was like, man, I could never worship that way. I was like, I just love her heart. She's like just completely abandoned for the Lord, I was like, man, I could never worship that way. Back up, I was singing one of the very first songs that I learned on the piano was Lover of Your Presence, and I was singing this and I was just flowing in worship, and it got to this part where I just started ad-libbing, just pouring out what the Lord was putting into me, and it was just these woes. I was just like, whoa, and so I fast forward back to Lindy Conant's song. I was listening to her, and she started singing those same whoa, 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 whoa. Even though we weren't singing the same song,
Wow.
the Lord brought back to mind, remember whenever I was pouring that into you, that song, that he was pouring that part into me, and it wasn't a part of that song.
Wow.
But then I compared myself to Lindy and was like, I could never worship that way. And then she started singing what I was singing back then. So, I think he right then was like, corrected me and was like, no, man, I have put you on this earth to worship me.
Amen.
So,
the beauty of the Lord. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's a lot of places you could lead worship. There's a lot of churches that would love to steal you from us. So what makes you make the intersection home?
I love the freedom of worship here. I love the heart of the people that come to the intersection. I love that our motto is compassion as a lifestyle. Just going out and seeing people transformed is an act of worship, and my favorite thing to do is worship Him wholeheartedly. So I was home. We were home. As soon as we walked into the intersection, we almost immediately knew that we were home. So
I love what you said. So what people don't often understand is that you're not just leading worship when you're leading on the keyboards or on a microphone.
Yeah.
You're leading worship when you're taking a pizza to the hungry people.
Absolutely.
You're leading in worship when you're meeting people out in a very dark and cold world and offering prayer and hope.
Yeah.
You're leading worship in that same manner, because worship is more than music.
Right.
Yeah. So, one of my favorite scriptures, and one of the things that I often pray for our worship team, for you when I'm praying for you, and not just you, but for our, for the band that's playing, I think of when King Saul was tormented by an evil spirit, which I'll be preaching about that today. And David would play his instrument. The Bible said that when David played that instrument, the tormenting spirit had to leave. And so I love, throughout my life, I have been in worship services where I've seen people so engaged in spirit-filled worship
Absolutely.
that only a believer that is really pursuing the Lord can offer to the Lord. And as they're offering that, whether it be on the keys or on the guitar or worshiping the Lord, I have watched tormenting spirits leave people.
Absolutely.
I have watched their countenance change. I have watched as miracles and signs and wonders has just happened with nobody touching anybody.
Absolutely.
In the atmosphere of worship. And so, can you talk to us? Someone's out there and they're like, why should I worship? Quickly, last minute, talk about the impact of worship.
The impact of worship. So, 2 Chronicles 20:22. There it talks about how in battle they sent out the worshipers first.
Yes.
And worship activated the ambush of heaven to work on your behalf. So, I mean, worship is, just what I said, the activation of heaven.
I've never used that term. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to preach it next week.
Yeah.
That worship is the activation of heaven's army engaging in your battle.
Yes.
Wow, that is a word.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
So this is why I worship, because I need the activation of heaven to engage in my battle. And as I worship Him, we teach that the Lord will meet us in our worship, that we're two or three gathered, that He's in the midst of them. God tabernacles in the presence of worship.
Yeah.
That's why I worship.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. Man, we have received so many encouraging words over the last few weeks. So there's like a new fire within you, and people are watching the worship service over and over and over again. They don't even want to hear me preach anymore. They just want to hear the worship that God's been giving you. So thank you for your obedience and the sacrifice. And so come check out 311 17th Street, the intersection where God's doing things in the midst of worship.